One of the things that I love, and I want to start right here because you talk about breaking up with the need to lose weight. And I
Mm.
think I've done an episode on this before in terms of breakups, right? Like in romantic relationships, going through a breakup. But what I've known through my own working in journey is that the breakups and even the deaths within ourselves outside of other people are the most profound. So, how do we break up with this need to lose weight and this kind of dieter's mentality? For those listening, I'm sure they've been, thinking they need to be a certain type of weight, need to do this type of workout. But what does it look like to really like break up with that part of yourself? And how do we do that?
I love the way that you phrase that too, because it's truly such an identity, right? For so many of us, we have really always felt this way about our bodies or about who we are, that it's become an identity, whether it's being a fitness junkie or a constant yo-yo dieter, or however we want to phrase it. It's such a big part of our lives because we're constantly thinking about it. So when we come to the idea of like, okay, this isn't working, I need something to shift, right? Typically we're exhausted, we're miserable, and we want to break up with the diet culture mentality. It first has to come from a space of like honest vulnerability with yourself of, is this actually working? Like, what has dieting or trying to be in a smaller body ever given you? Right. And then looking at what is it that you actually want? I tell clients a lot of the time, what we want is not actually what we're desiring, right? We might say, oh, well, I want to lose weight. Okay, that's fine. If that's truly your goal, that's wonderful. But what do you think the weight loss is going to give you? Right. And so I think in order to kind of break up with this like need to lose weight or to look a certain way, it's a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of recognizing like, why do I think that this is important for me to do? What am I going to get out of it?
And what do your clients say when you ask that question? What's
Mm.
the, I'm sure it's a question phrased in a way where it's like, oh, I just thought skinnier would bring me all the answers. What is some of the why that comes up when they think about why they want to be skinny, fit in a certain type of gene?
Yeah. So much of it has to do with what you just said of being happy, feeling accepted, feeling worthy. A lot of the work that we do, we start with mindset. And so it's really uncovering, okay, where are these limiting beliefs coming from, right? If we start to understand why, then we get to understand where is it coming from, who, when, right? What experience taught you that? So a lot of times I hear like, well, I've always been told I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not small enough, right? I'm not enough. And so it's truly more of these feelings of acceptance, of love, of safety, of belonging, which are inherently what as humans like we crave, right? That's truly how we function, is love, safety, and belonging. And so we're finding surface level ways to almost like mimic that rather than finding it within ourselves.
Yeah. And I think when you get people in the coaching I do too, it's like when you get people to say out loud,
Yeah.
oh, I was looking for this weight or this thing to happen outside of me to then be happy, to then feel like I'm good enough. And when you say it out loud, it's like, oh shit, I believed that. I
Mhm.
didn't realize I believed it until I took time, worked in, you know, silenced all the noise, all the senses, all the things. And you look at it for that and it's like, huh, oh man. So once you have that realization of like, okay, I don't feel good enough unless I'm a certain size. I know from mindset work, NLP, and all the things, we can't just go from, I don't think I'm good enough to I'm good enough. Okay, now I broke up with it and I'm good to go. And I also like the way you painted that picture because it's similar in romantic relationships. It's like
Mhm.
something's not right, it feels off, but I don't know what it's like to not be in this relationship. What do I feel like I'm getting out of it? And is it what my ideal self would want to get out of this relationship? So paint the picture, or, someone listening, you might be in that space where it's like, oh yeah, I realized I'm trying to be good enough for whoever said I wasn't when I was younger. And I just imprinted that on me. But it's oftentimes, in fact, I would argue never enough just to say, okay, I am good enough. I am good enough. And repeat that if you don't believe it yet.
Well,
So, what's that
it's
bridge
so
look like?
ingrained, right? It's so ingrained into the makeup of like who you are in that moment. I tell my clients that if you look back over the course of your life has just been framed by experience after experience, right? And you had an experience that had a heightened emotional charge, something that was really impactful for you. And then every time you were in a similar experience after that, you took that lens and applied it, right? And so, like to your point, with relationships, we do that. We look at, well, this was what happened with this particular partner. This is how I acted. This is how they reacted. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to apply it to every single person that I'm with next. Or I'm going to try to be almost like fixing them the way I wish I would have been able to fix the initial relationship. It's the same thing with our bodies and with our relationship with food. We look at, well, I was told this or I experienced this. For instance, like I watched my mom diet her whole life and always pick her body apart. Okay. So I took pieces of what I learned from that and I applied it to my own narrative. Right. A belief is nothing more than a thought that we have thought so many times that now we believe it to be true. Right. And I think what's really cool about that is that means that we can also change it. Right. Every belief that we have right now, it may or may not be true. It's completely framed by our own experience. So that also means that we have the power to change it if it's not giving us what we want.
Mm-hmm.